When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching The Meta Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Meta Show. Today is April the 16th, 2022. Yesterday was Good Friday. It was also tax day. Tomorrow is Easter. Today is Passover. We got all kinds of stuff happening. And we actually have a week of relatively good news compared to what we normally talk about here on the show. Hi, boss.
Hi. Pretty good. Kind of confused, kind of looking around. It's so hard to process CCP dev blogs that are actually good. And I mean, you know, there's some of these things that are good in a way that like they walk back some of the most obvious failures of the Rattati administration, but some of these changes are actually like good, as in not just making up for Rattati administration errors, like actual changes to citadels that are positive. There is lots of stuff happening. We have some breaking news here. The Bastion has announced that they are going to be shutting down as an Imperium alliance, and some of them are going to be wide-outing into Goonswarm. This just broke just before the show.
Breaking news here on INN.
Carneros has recently accepted a full-time job with, I think, Raph Koster's crew, and is going to be just not have the bandwidth to being an autocrat. So that's happening. So we brought you that just hit the Reddits a little bit ago, so you can check the announcement there. We have violence in Faith Ablis. We have got good CCP dev blogs. We actually have a proper full show full of things to go through.
It's crazy.
And we have the NFT shit. I forgot earlier.
That's even the best part.
The NFT thing. So there we go. Let's go ahead and get through it. Let's see what we've got.
All right. So to get started, first things first, before we do anything else, I have a programming announcement I wanted to make. You guys seem to quite enjoy the Meta Show Spring Break WWE edition with the Mittani and Fountain Frank getting our asses beat by Pro God and Matterall. Among others, Gobbins was there. There was a bunch of different characters of your favorite EVE Online legends that were out fighting in the WWE. We've decided to turn this into a monthly thing. Now, I don't know when this month we're going to be doing it, probably closer to the end of the month. I think it's going to be the last week in April that we will do this. But we had a contest on the Goon forums to determine who were going to be the next people to fight on the WWE 2K EVE edition. So congratulations. We have an additional 5 people that will be joining us on the next WWE EVE edition. First of all, 1, Merkel Chen. 2nd, Jay Amazingness. 3, John Hartley. 4, Villy. And number 5, Innominate will be characters featured in the next round of WWE. Now, in addition, we also have 3 honorable mentions that will be joining as well. Our former and one of our favorite Meta Show hosts, The Big Red Boat, will be getting a character, as well as CCP Rattati and CCP Hilmar. I really wonder which team they're going to end up being on. We shall see. So if you want a triumphant return of the boat to the Meta Show, it'll happen, but it's going to be WWE related. So there you go. Anyway, I wanted to get that out there at the start of the show, and then we're going to go ahead. We're going to go into our top story. An actual week of good news in EVE Online. Is it a thing? Is it possible? Here we go.
I'm scared. Somebody hold me.
It started, everyone, with the release of this dev blog. This was on Monday, April the 11th, 2022. This was a statement that was made by CCP Helmar, also known as Hilmar Peterson. And it was about NFTs and blockchain. Now, as you guys know, the Meta Show has taken a firm go fuck yourself NFTs stance. We have had this stance from the very beginning. We have led the charge against NFTs. We have led the charge against blockchain. We have led the charge against pay to earn. And you can guarantee that as long as Mittens and I are still playing EVE Online, we are going to be pushing this fight. But what I want to say to all of you is thank you and congratulations. CCP got the message. Here's what they said. So I won't read the entire thing. It's on the screen if you'd like to read it. But the important part is many of us at CCP, quote, and this is a quote from Hilmar, many of us at CCP have been following the new frontier that's been developing around blockchains and cryptocurrencies for the past few years. We've read your feedback and we also see what you see. Blockchain tech has both a lot of untapped potential, which I can't even really argue with that. I mean, it's not wrong. It's totally untapped. They haven't done anything with it. And a lot of work really needed before ready for EVE scale games. Yes. So on that note, we have no plans to add blockchain technology into EVE Online's global server Tranquility for the foreseeable future. For the coming years, years with an S. Development for TQ will focus on building exciting new opportunities on top of the robust foundation that's been laid over the past 2 decades. While we remain intrigued by the technology, for us, NFT stands for not for tranquility. Overall, EVE will continue to push the boundaries of digital economies and virtual worlds, and we will continue to explore that outside of TQ. So listen, here's what we've got. We have Hilmar on the record saying no NFTs, no blockchain on TQ for at least 2 years. At least. And that they're willing to go and play around in other games with it, but they're not going to bring it here. I know that there are weasel words in this statement. I know that there are things that people don't like or that they're scared of. I know they see foreseeable future and it makes them scared because you can drive a bus through that, as Mittens and I would have said in our lawyer careers. But I cannot say that this is anything short of a win for those of us who thought that we were going to see NFTs at FanFest, and we were going to see NFTs next week, that this was going to become a standard part of the game after the nonsense with the Alliance tournament. And I think that all comes down to the amount of noise that you all made and that we amplified here on the Meta Show, as well as in other media. Boss, what's your take on this? And are you as willing to give CCP credit for at least not fucking it up completely as I am?
You know, one of the things about this letter is it is the safest and weakest possible public statement that CCP could have made about NFTs. And it comes on the heels of course, Hilmar being photographed hanging out with a bunch of crypto bros in some random crypto bro convention where they all get together and talk about how valuable their tulips are and how it's the future and you're just not smart enough to understand how it's the future. So I don't really give him much credit for this. Like, it's in theory, it's nice to see, but I think it almost shows you a statement of intention that, you know, Hilmar is still a crypto bro. He still wants to sell some Axies or whatever. It's the sort of the latest get rich quick scheme that we're dealing with. So here's sort of my take on this. First of all, NFTs can eat my ass. Second of all, this comes out after there has been an industry-wide outcry. If CCP was one of the early adopters saying, we're not going to do NFTs, we're not going to do this crypto shit, we heard you loud and clear. Which actually happened, I think was more than a month ago, and I forget which games company did it. It might have been Ubisoft or whichever, but several companies come out with statements after there was a huge hue and cry from gamers saying, fuck this noise. And so now, after everybody's like, oh gosh, gamers don't like this, there has been a huge backlash. Now, when it's easy, we have this dev block. So obviously not for tranquility is weasel words. It's full of weasel words. And so in a lot of these things, it's a question of, should we give them the gold star, right? Because do we give them a gold star for not doing dumb things that they told us that they were going to try to do, right? It's kind of like, do we give CCP a gold star for not requiring insane amounts of water in supercarrier production, right? Okay, you stopped doing the dumb thing you were doing after everyone told you and you didn't listen, and everyone told you louder and you told everybody that they were dumb and wrong. And finally, you saw the light and you want a fucking gold star. So, okay, great. It's not for tranquility. If they're expecting that suddenly it's going to be rainbows and sunshine because they issued the weakest and easiest possible statement on this, is it good that they said it? Yes. What would get them a gold star for me is if they didn't use the weasel words. Like if they had actually come out with a full-throated acknowledgement of the fact that they had tried to shove NFTs down our throats and did Tezos bucks in the Alliance tournament for kill mails. They actually went there. I have 13
Tezos bucks.
Yeah,
I won a contest.
They went full tulip, boys and girls. And so if they had sort of done an actual climb down, like some of the other gaming companies have done, and said, okay, we get it, we're not doing it. But, you know, the thing just reads as if Hilmar and crew are still holding out hope for some sort of a magical crypto bro future where North Korea doesn't steal $600 million worth of your little Neopets, right? Like this is another thing that happened in the aftermath of all this NFT crap, is that it came out that the people that stole the Axies from Axie Infinity, which is some dumb NFT pet game that nobody actually cares about, was heisted by the North Koreans. So just the entire ecosystem of dumbass crypto stuff is essentially a house of cards. That house of cards has lost public support. NFTs, and I want to thank everybody on the Meta Show who took our advice. We got here months ago and we said, mock and shame those people that are trying to scam you, that are trying to take advantage of you, that are trying to sell you their tulips. Right? Do not buy into the NFT thing, and mock and shame those that try to push you into it. And it's worked across the industry. It is a punchline. It is a joke. And you're seeing some effects of this. There was a recent story about how Jack Dorsey's first tweet went for, originally they were going to sell it for $48 million or something, and it went for $280. So people are generally waking up to the fact that NFTs are dumb, and that thinking that they are an amazing thing in the future is dumb, and that it is just tulips all the way down. So I'm happy that we were mad enough as gamers to force CCP to make a statement like this, even if it was as weaselly as possible. So I'll give us, those of us who have stood against NFTs, a gold star. That's who'll get the gold star from this. So there you go. Oof.
And again, so like Mittani said, and I agree with him, there are weasel words in here. I don't think there was any way we were going to get them to not put weasel words in here, because I'll tell you this, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I will say it 10,000 times. CCP has been burned by making promises in the past, and instead of learning the right lesson, which is don't break your promises, they learned the other lesson, which is don't make promises. And I would rather they not break them than make them, because I like it when they make promises, especially if, you know, you have a good track record. Now, granted, they've blown that track record away. A group like, for example, the Imperium, we have a good track record. We keep our promises. We've cut a deal with you and we're going to keep it, and you can take that to the bank. And that's our reputation, and we've staked it on there. Unfortunately, not everybody has done that. So I guess they can't really go back and put that genie in the bottle. But I'll tell you, I would have liked to have seen a stronger statement. I'm happy to see this statement. Now, the guys are asking in chat, does this mean they could add it to Serenity? 100%. Yes. Does this mean they could add it to Eve Echoes? Yes. Does this mean they could add it to Project Nova, or whatever the fuck they're calling the London thing? Yes. Could they add it to some other game? Yes. Could they add it to Spark or whatever the hell that VR game that's still out there? Yes. They're not saying no to NFTs as a company. They're saying no to NFTs on Tranquility server of EVE Online. I'll be honest, that's good enough for me, at least for now. And if they come back and they change their mind and they go back and do this, they're going to get a shit. First of all, it's going to be unpopular, unless we've gotten to the point in the world where no one cares about NFTs anymore. And then who cares if they made this promise? If nobody gives a shit, then fine, go ahead and do it. But people hate them and they don't want you to do them, and they're telling you not to do them. So I'm glad that they at least came out and said, hey, we're not going to do them, at least for the next 2 years, maybe longer. I see foreseeable future longer than that. but it says years. The minimum of years is 2. So I will say, hey, at the very minimum, we get 2 years of no more of this nonsense. We'll see how that plays out. But again, I've said this before, they didn't have to make this statement. They could have just let it go like everybody else has been doing. And I mean, there are some game companies, and I showed you on the screen the article from February, like EA and Epic and some others are pulling back. Ubisoft, they're the bad guys. They still think it's an okay deal.
They weren't. Okay, so
they're the ones that are all like, we might still sell tokens. And I mean, I think to the boss's point, like these NFTs, until when you buy the NFT, you get more than just a piece of paper saying you own it, until like you get the copyright, you get the rights to it, then nobody's going to care. And it's just a way for rich people to be, have their money taken from them, which I don't think many people complain about that much. But regardless, I don't want them anywhere near EVE Online. And I think at the very least, this started the week off relatively good. And then we moved on to some really, really big news that came out on Thursday. Now, let's pull this up. Oh, actually, hold on a second. Before we go to that, I want to say the best thing that CCP got out of this whole thing is they got a good article, and I'll show you guys, in Ars Technica of all places, talking about why EVE as a game with our robust economy is proving that you don't need NFTs in games. And I was like, hey, you know what? That's pretty good. And they gave Hilmar credit for saying, hey, we're not going to do all this stuff. But this whole article, if you want to read it, and I'll throw a link in chat, is all about how great EVE's economy is. Now, yes, is this a shill piece? Of course it is. Come on. But I don't mind it when we actually get some good media about the game, because I'd like people maybe to read this and then try it. That might be a good thing. And having it in a place where, it's obviously not gaming media, I think is pretty helpful. So there you go. All right. So
I got
move on. Go ahead.
I mean, just basically, we can stop the NFT stuff. When I say we, I mean we as gamers, right? We've shown this across multiple games. And the way it works is because it's intended to be a high status good, right? They're trying to convince you that it has value, or it's like an investment, or it's like maybe they're going to try to say it's a Veblen good or something. But mockery and shaming, my friends, mockery and shaming is the answer. Because if some dumb motherfucker tries to brag to me or in front of me and any of my friends about how he has a bored ape, I am going to immediately start shitting on him from a great height. Because it's not just that he's bragging about his stupid NFT. He's trying to convince innocent people that they should buy into this scam, because he bought into the stupid scam, and he needs to promote to other people that they should buy stupid apes as well, and hopes that he can then offload his apes or tulips or whatever. This is how these things work. And so just keep in mind that whenever this comes up again, people in chat are bringing it up, is that they are going to try to shove it down our throats. You can just, 1, don't buy NFTs. 2, don't let your friends buy NFTs without warning them. 3, relentlessly mock the venal stupidity of anyone who is a true believer in NFTs. They are scammers. They are trying to scam you, and only you can stop this. All we have to do is just agree that this is a dumb fucking scam, tell everybody it's a dumb fucking scam, and mock and shame the guilty parties. Only you can stop NFTs. All right, that's it on that. Let's move on to the next one.
So we're moving on to the next thing. So Thursday, we get some more good news, amazingly enough. The Siege Green dev blog was dropped on, I guess that was Wednesday, April the 13th. A new update that's on Singularity. It included a number of important things. The most important, absolutely most important thing that happened was they announced they are cutting almost half the cost of almost every super capital and up in the game, and causing all kinds of beneficial changes to manufacturing, making it easier to build stuff. They have slashed the different types of things that are needed to make stuff in EVE. It's going to, based on the napkin math that we all talked about here, the costs are going to drop probably by half for at least a lot of the big ships that we've been worrying about. They're finally reducing the need for water in dreads. The Wyvern costs are down from 90 billion ISK. A dread itself should be around 2.5 billion ISK now. We'd like to get it lower, but they have fixed things and made it so that at the very least, we are not getting the crazy industry problems that we've had over the last year. And I firmly believe that this is another thing that is an example of the players complaining, being rowdy, getting out there, explaining to folks, this is not working. We can't build things. Nobody's building caps. Nobody's using them except on one-off cases. And when we do have a big fight, it's big news. And then it's also hard to recover from. All of this stuff we finally got through, and they're making these changes. I'm happy with this, boss. I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to jump back in and say one more thing before people start giving me a hard time for being nice to CCP. Go ahead.
Okay, don't worry. Bad cop is here. So this is okay. So first of all, it's delightful that CCP Kestrel is there, right? Like, I am delighted whenever I see something from somebody like Sutonia or somebody like Rise or even Fozzie, when I see devs doing things that know how the video game works, right? Now, I don't know who was actually involved in all of these tweaks, right? It was just CCP Kestrel that posted a lovely summary on REVE, including a meta show joke about water, which is cool and good. We talked about this at the start of the show, and this kind of goes into the same territory as the NFT dev blog, right? We're going to have some actual good news about structures here in a second. But right now, when we are talking about this sensible, sane CCP fix, this is a sensible, sane fix that could have been fixed months ago if the Rattati administration would actually listen to the CSM or the players or anyone who plays EVE Online. Could have told them that all of this Plex parity crap was dumb and wrong, and that it's nice to see these fixes done, but the fact that it took more than 6 months to get the blueprints fixed is ridiculous. You want a gold star for this? Again and again and again. The road to FanFest devblog, so many of these situations have come about because the Rattati administration screws something up, goes defensive thin-skinned like babies, and then goes, gosh, how mean you are. You're wrong to criticize it. The players have to escalate their yelling to the point that we have had to have riots about this. And then finally, at long last, they come around and say, gosh, guys, here's some sensible changes that everyone could pretty much agree upon a long time ago. You're not going to get a gold star for that. If your idea of improving EVE Online is just fixing the things that you screwed up about EVE Online, the way we judge the developers of EVE Online in this game is how far did you move the dial on improving the game overall. This is why when we see in certain previous administrations, when you had Unifex or when you had Seagull, you could say, sure, there was some good, there was some bad, but in general, the dial got moved forward in a certain direction that is good. If over several years, you have to have a big win, which was literally just fixing the mistakes that you created. Dare we talk about the dynamic bounty nonsense here? We'll leave that on the table. But there's a bunch of these situations where recently now they are coming out and they're saying, we fixed this, we fixed that, where it's literally just finally patching some of the stuff that everyone agreed was screwed up, except that they insisted it was not. So I'm glad that they're fixing this. I'm much more excited about some of the bits we're going to be talking about here soon with the Citadel changes, because those are legitimately things that are different about EVE Online in a way which I believe is going to be better, that is not related to unfucking something that was screwed up against the feedback of the CSMs, against the feedback of the player base, against to the point that there was a riot, right? That's sad. But anyway, at least things are headed in the right direction now because we have some more good stuff here. So Brisc, back to you.
Correct. So again, on the screen, you'll see CCP Kestrel's Reddit post that talks about like what changes are being made in layman's terms so that people can see it. And he makes the note for dreads, the core temperature regulator blueprint now uses 11 times less water. Hopefully the Mittani won't be able to talk about water on the meta show this week. So there you go. There's a perfect example of that. But again, this is a situation where, as Mittani said, and I will point out again, this is a situation where they're fixing something that they broke. And I want you all to remember Remember your 1984, okay? I've got my favorite copy of 1984 right here, and I will read you the part that always reminds me of this whole thing. It appeared that there had even been demonstrations to thank Big Brother for raising the chocolate ration to 20 grams a week. And only yesterday he reflected it had been announced that the ration was to be reduced to 20 grams a week. Was it possible they could swallow that in only 24 hours? Yes, they swallowed it. Parsons swallowed it easily with the stupidity of an animal. The eyeless creature at the table, I said Irish, I should have said eyeless. Creature at the other table swallowed it fanatically, passionately, with a furious desire to track down, denounce, and vaporize anyone who should suggest that last week the ration had been 30 ounces. The whole point is, don't forget, they're giving you back something they already took away from you. They're not giving you anything new. They're giving you back half of what they took away. This was a problem that was created by the company, solved by the company, a year after it became a problem. So while I am happy and pleased, and we are saying this is good news, it is good news. But what would have been better news if this shit had never happened at all. Now, I am not one of these people who is never going to say thank you when CCP does what we asked them to do. So thank you. But man, it would have been nice to not have to take a year to do that. Just saying. Now,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I know it's just amazing because there's this joke of I think this was from like World War II or something that I can't really tell you the provenance, but something effective. You know, you can always count on the Americans to do maybe it was World War I. You can always count on the Americans to do the right thing after they've exhausted
everything else has been done.
Every last possible option. And it's kind of that way with the Rattati administration, because it's like, okay, great, you did the thing that was identified 6 months ago. Like, keep in mind, guys, if you're new to EVE Online, or you're not big into caps, or you're not big into industry, this is essentially what in any other MMO would be called the end game. Now, EVE is a sandbox game, so it doesn't really have that kind of theme parky end game kind of thing. But certainly end game production is the production of capital ships and super capital ships. And in game combat oftentimes involves escalations into the big boy toys coming out and blowing up. So imagine if you went into any other MMO and you literally just for 6+ months turned off an entire chunk of the end game for multiple play styles. Like, if you were a producer of caps and super caps, well, for a long time you weren't. And they were like, this is good, guys, we're fixing the economy. And the reason why this was so stupid and so avoidable is they have players. They have a council of stellar management. They had players telling them, here, everywhere, you fixed this, listen to this expert, do this, do that, whatever. The information was there, and they were like, la, 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 we know best. You want some NFTs. You actually, this is good for the economy. And what it really just revealed is all of the underlying assumptions that went into the Rattati administration's scarcity campaign were busted and wrong. This proves, this is CCP admitting and acknowledging that they had no idea what they were doing. No idea with the whole scarcity mess that they created. And I lay that at the feet of the Rattati administration. So keep in mind, when they're looking for gold stars here, we will give them gold stars for things that they did good, that move the dial on the game. But if you have to be dragged kicking and screaming to acknowledge the basics of how a core part of your end game gameplay works for huge chunks of your player base, and oh no, everything's fine. The players just don't get it. They're just a few individuals who are crying about it. Everything is fine. Meanwhile, the player charts with the ISK velocity and the economy. It was so preventable. And here we are. Anyway, so let's talk about something that we can actually give them a real gold star for. We can give these guys a gold star for something. Here it is.
Holy shit. All right, so back to Siege Green. Okay. One of the reasons they're calling it Siege Green is because it included some significant structure changes. Now, number one, this is something that I don't think anybody can bitch about. And it's huge. Boom. All Upwell structures will have their shield damage cap removed. Fucking finally.
Finally. Oh my God. Wow.
I mean, we have been begging for this. I mean, this is legit. This is the best. Almost nobody cares about shield timers. The only time you will stop anybody on a shield timer is like what happened to Merc and Nam and I against Horde the other night. They just brought a couple more people and pushed us off. Who cares? We'll go back and do it later. in any kind of actual warfare between two groups where structures are involved, the shield timer is given away. It's just, you're not going to defend on it. One, by the time you figure out that you're getting hit and then you go get a fleet and you go there, it's over. Maybe you'll try a fight if the numbers are the same, but otherwise you don't care. You just wait, let them finish. You go out there, you mark down the time, and you come back and you beat them on the armor timer. Getting the shield stuff done removes so much tedium from the structure grind. It's not even funny. And I tell you this as someone who has killed 146 some structures over the last 3 or 4 years, or however long the damn structures have been out. We do this all the time. It's part of the fun. That's what we do on Saturday Night Swarm sometimes, is what we do on Rampage Incorporated. We kill a lot of structures in small groups. We love to do this. Getting rid of the shield timer is a massive positive change. For nullsec, I think it's a massive positive change everywhere. Some people will argue with me, but those people are wrong. The bottom line is, doing this is great. It's going to create more opportunities for people to fight, and it's not going to create tedium, and that's good. So I like it. This is a good step.
This is wonderful, right? Like, this is a scenario where there was a type of gameplay that was, so this is the thing. Whenever you're like, hey, there's an entire type of gameplay that gets removed from a big change to the game, or even a little change to the game, maybe you should be aware that there's a type of gameplay and then take a look into it. But these are things that predate the Rattati administration, so we're not going to worry about that. There used to be a thing called ninja sieging, right, where you could get a bunch of dreadnoughts together and ninja siege a POS and get in and out in one siege cycle if you cap injected right and you brought enough DPS to the table. Now, you don't necessarily need to drop 30 dreadnoughts on an Astrahus when it doesn't have a damage cap now, so it's not going to require that level of stuff, but it does open up a lot of really interesting tactical options, and more importantly, it cuts down on the amount of just structure spam bullshit, which was one of the major complaints that a lot of the fleet commanders in the game got together and signed that thing that Dark Shines and crew had all signed on to. I forgot exactly who wrote it originally. But this is good. Wonderful. Great. Gold star for this. This is actually going to make the game better, and I approve.
So next up, now this was a little more controversial. Okay, some of the stuff that was added here next. So medium structures will have their hull reinforcement timer removed. And again, for those of us in nullsec, and I will address everybody else in a minute, for those of us in nullsec, this is a huge beneficial change, because it's going to increase the speed at which we can clear systems of these Roach Motel Astra houses and these random Athenors. If people are going to fight, they're going to fight anyway. They'll try to bring the numbers. If they couldn't bring the numbers, they weren't going to fight on the hull timer, and nobody fights on a hull timer unless it's like M2 and it has strategic value. And even then, we were getting mocked and chided by a lot of people in Pappy that we even took the M2 hull timer fight. The only reason they said you did it was because we had all these ships trapped. But here's what's going to happen. We're going to kill that Keepstar, and then we're going to murder your entire Titan fleet. It's going to be great. And that's why they even showed up. So more likely than not, you don't fight on hull timers, because in nullsec, you lose tether, you get bubbled, you're not going anywhere. You guys are probably going to die. So most of the fights happen on the armor timer. And when it comes to these random Astra houses, most of the time they don't even fight on the armor timer. An Astra house is completely expendable at block level warfare when it comes to nullsec, because they're small, they can't hold caps. So who's using them? They were usually used or dropped in the past because they were an extra clone bay that you could have. That problem's been solved. So a lot of these are not unnecessary in the first place. You don't need that many in a system. But sometimes they can be used as just things to make the bad guys chew through before they get to the big stuff, and they'll go do it. But in the end, if it means this is a little bit faster, it means a little bit more content, it means a few more armor timers might actually get contested because there's not going to be another chance, then I think this is going to be a good change. And I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's going to generate more kill mails. I think it's going to generate more content for a lot of people and get people out and get them shooting a lot of these Roach Motel type structures and letting us mess with the moons of the bad guys in a way that we couldn't really do before. So I'm happy about it. Now, boss, I'll let you get in there and then I'll explain to people who don't like it.
No, I don't really have anything else to say about this, because this seems like I understand that there might be some controversy about maybe like the wormhole people would like to have some tweaks in there, right, for other areas of space, and that's reasonable. But in general, if you don't have your head completely up your ass, this is one of the first unalloyed goods that we've seen in a hot minute down the pipe. And I think CCP deserves the gold star, and I'm happy to present, 1 gold star. Absolutely. 2 thumbs up. This is good. But I guess there are some people that aren't happy about this. Brisc, maybe you could clue us in onto who that might be.
All right. So here is the problem. Okay. First of all, medium structures. Who uses medium structures? Who's going to use an Asbel? Who's going to use an Astrahus? Who's going to use an Athanor? Well, everybody uses Athanors. Most people use Asbels because they're well, I guess not. I wouldn't say everybody uses Asbels, but most people use Athanors because you have to mine moons. Asbels and Astrahuses are medium structures. They're the smallest of the big upwell structures. They're bigger than flex structures, which haven't been changed at all, but they're smaller than the large structures, which is a Fortizar or a Tatara, or the extra large structures like a Keepstar or a Satoya. So the whole point is
Rotaro.
Right, and Rotaro. And the whole point is these guys are supposed to be useful, but not like super useful. They're super cheap. Like an Astra House is less than $1 billion ISK. They're accessible by smaller groups. They're accessible by groups in faction warfare space and low sec. They're accessible by small groups in high sec. They're accessible by small groups in wormholes and elsewhere. So who's mad? Well, first of all, the number one people that are mad are the small groups everywhere. Small group guys are pissed off. They're saying that this is completely destroying their ability to defend themselves, that if they ever took fights, they're going to lose content, because if they ever took fights, they took them on the armor timer. And then if they lost the armor timer or got pushed off, they had time to extract their assets and move them. They don't like asset safety because it ties up all their stuff, so they don't want to use asset safety. They want to move things. And that was a big problem. And that's still a problem, and that's still something that they're complaining about, and they're yelling at me every day. And I've passed it on to CCP Aurora, and I don't know what she's going to do about it, but it is a legitimate issue if you're in a smaller group. In addition, the wormhole guys are pissed. Why are the wormhole guys pissed? Well, look, here is the main thing. If there's only one time, if the first timer is shield and it can be done anytime, and then the next timer comes back and there's just one timer, these guys, as you can see on the screen, they basically have a day from the time that the structure is hit, a day in their defensive window where they can come back and defend. So this means theoretically, if the bad guys hit your hole on a Friday and they get a good timer and you don't play even, like you go away for the weekend, you come back on Monday, all your stuff's gone. There's no asset safety in wormholes. There's no asset safety in Pochvin. It's the same issue. So I think in this situation, the amount of time that you have to defend that final timer is not enough in wormholes. So I've asked CCP to extend that for at least by 2 days for the wormhole guys. That gets them out. Like, so if it hits on Friday, then they have a chance to defend it on a Monday. I think that solves a lot of the problem for them. But I'm waiting to see whether or not they do that. But they've been the ones that have been the other ones that have been complaining. The high sec guys, they got nothing to complain about. As far as I'm concerned, if you have a structure at all in high sec, then that is because you claim that you believe you can defend it, because you can't get war decked unless you have a structure. So if you have a structure and you can get war decked, you better be able to defend it. I don't want to hear any shit from you about how this isn't fair to small groups. If you don't think you're going to be able to defend your structures as a high sec corp, don't have them. We changed the war deck stuff specifically so that you guys wouldn't have to PvP if you didn't want to. And the only downside is you don't get structures. Get it. If you're a bigger group and you can handle your own stuff, then you get structures. That's the deal. Small groups, they need them. That's fine. I understand. I still think that there are options for the low sec guys. They still got stations in non-faction warfare areas. They can still use those to stage out of an NPC space, but it does suck for the small groups. But anyway, that's where the controversy is right now. Other than that, those are the only complaints that I've heard from anybody about these structure changes, which I think is pretty amazing given how common complaining is in EVE.
The thing is, Fortizars exist, right? Like at a certain point, if this is sort of a sick joke, right? But if the game's economy is doing as well as CCP has been insisting that things are going great, then it shouldn't be that much of an additional boost to have, this is a let them eat cake kind of thing, but you could use a Fortizar, right? It gets all of its timers. Fortizar is not impacted by this. If you want to use an Aster you can probably find a way to afford a Fortizar, but maybe you can't. And if you can't, that might have something to do with the fact that the economy has been screwed up.
And you're right, guys. Sorry, just real quick, boss. I flipped it. I meant Asbel I meant Ritaro instead of Asbel. Ritaro's a small guy. Asbel's the middle. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry, boss.
Yeah, and I obviously I enjoyed the huge explosion of Pappy people on Reddit whining about how this was a sign that the devs are in bed with Goonswarm.
Well, that's the next part. That's the next part.
We're going there too. We're going there too. I jumped the gun. Okay.
So all right. So the best part, the absolute best part about this news was instantly all of the Pappy guys who had been bitching and moaning and whining and complaining and, oh my God, goons have so many structures in Delve. How are we ever going to get through all of these? It should be so much easier to rep all this stuff. Bitch throughout the entire war, didn't get it. Suddenly they change it. And what happens? Oh, it's goons getting CCP to play the game for them. They're letting CCP win, but the CCP is letting the goons win. During the war with goons, you introduced changes with taxes that affected the entire war, leaving the opponents without money. Now when goons attack, you introduce structure nerfs and cheaper caps and super buildings and buff battleships and dreads. CCP plays along with the goons. Boo fucking who. The fact that, and it just, to me, I don't know, boss, is it, I see people say this stuff and I assume that they're kidding, but then when they go back over the top and they're not, it really frightens me. Like, how does this guy tie his own shoes in the morning?
I see this as a heartwarming scenario. Like I look at this angry Pappy, and it's just nice to know that they're still mad, because I was kind of afraid. We haven't had much to fling shit at each other about here in a hot minute, right? Like there's some stuff happening in Faith Abilis. There are a few vaguely simmering conflicts around the galaxy. But mainly we have, as a player base, been grappling with the things that the Rattati administration did to the economy of the game and did to the gameplay of the game. So it was it made me feel good to see Reddit threads with hundreds of comments of angry Pappies and goons and friends and everybody just flinging shit at each other, because, it gives me hope for the game, is that people are still ass blasted at one another in EVE Online, and that if CCP could keep moving the game in the correct direction, we can just go back to flinging shit at each other rather than having to interrupt our wars by talking shit about how CCP keeps screwing things up. So, this is classic Pappy, right? Like this is as classic as it gets, where these are the very kind of changes that they had been pushing for hard, and
they
because
asked for this,
they begged for it, they insisted. And CCP has a thing where they won't often change major gameplay things during a big conflict, which is probably a good thing. Pappy has benefited from this many times before. Of course, during the Casino War, which was the war before the Vietnam War, during the Casino War, CCP waited until the moment the Casino War was over to ban the casinos for the shady dark money activities and all the RMT that they were involved with. And they didn't ban them during the Casino War because, of course, the Casino War was funded by these very casinos. So, this is reasonable enough, but it's just funny for me to see these guys who were insisting that the only reason why goons won the war is because blah, 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 structure mechanics, when these are a bunch of turbo geniuses who thought that sinoing their cap fleet into a blob of fighter bombers was a good opening move in a critical battle. Right. So, it's great. I hope that they're mad. I hope that they stay mad. This is like an Eve is healing kind of thing, because if the Pappies are screeching, I'm happy.
And I just got to say, for the record, like the stuff that you're saying, that this guy's saying, you introduced changes with taxes that infected the entire war. Yes, leaving the opponents of goons without money. No, it didn't. It left Tess without money. Horde had plenty of money. PL and NC Dot, they weren't hurting. They weren't even in the TTT. We were in the TTT. It hurt us. It hurt us just as much as it hurt them. Especially when we've got to burn because we're going through SRP and dropping trillions of ISK in SRP on losses during the NPC Delve campaign. We lost a ton of money too. Trust me, the TTT changes hurt everybody, not just Pappy.
Yeah, as Hartley's pointing out here in chat, it's a very savvy point, is that these guys didn't even really have a challenge with the Citadels themselves, right? Because they were perfectly happy to tell everyone how, as part of their strategy, to take all the time in the world to very carefully and cautiously blow up our Citadels, however long it took them, which was why we were able to buy so much time with them. But as Hartley points out, they had a problem with the gates. They never even got through the gates into Fortress Delve to be able to actually chew on any of the Citadels in 1DQ1. They couldn't make it past the fucking wood chipper. So I just want to remind all the Pappies that you got to get past that first before you come after our Citadels. But who knows? Maybe they will all band together again, showing the galaxy once again the true nature of the Pappy, and try to come after us. That would be lovely. Again, bring it, bitches. I know exactly. I know that some of you were planning it and hoping that you'd get some stuff in, and then you'd be able to have some fun. You know where we live, so we're waiting.
And like, when you think back on all the stuff that did get changed by CCP during the war that had a negative impact on us, like cores. Pappy thought we were going to bankrupt ourselves buying cores for all of our structures when they were giggling their whole way. The introduction of the keys and the ESS reserve main banks or the reserve banks, they thought, oh my God, all this money is in the keys that Fraternity and the other group have. We're going to get a flood of income. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. Didn't happen. But that's what they thought. They thought they were getting a buff. The bubble bullshit in NPC Delve, where somebody asks CCP and gets an answer and says, hey, by the way, this isn't an exploit anymore, when the rest of us thought it was an exploit. I didn't think it was okay. And then they use it against us. We're like, all right, well, fine. That's on us. Then we know it now. But that wasn't an example of CCP like trying to put a thumb on the scale for goons, and it's just the whole idea that CCP picked a side is so absurd. And to especially talk about it, how when goons attack now, are you kidding? I mean, it's a SIGs and squads deployment. We're not even really fighting we had one major fight and that's it. The timing is all coincidental, and it's also changes we've been begging them to make for a year and a half. It took them that long to do it. It has nothing to do with it. You think they just woke up and were like, well, shit, and it's deployed to Faithabolus. We got to help them out, clearing out all of the dead shit that's already dead in Faithabolus. And if you don't believe me, go look at the March MER. I'll show you the fucking March MER. I mean, Look here, I'll pull it up. Total destroyed value by region. Number 1, who is it? Faithabolus. There it is, right there.
How much was that actually?
16.22 billion. That is 1.6 trillion ISK destroyed in Faithabolus. That's more than the Forge. It's more than HiSec. It's more than everywhere else. It's even more than Delve. Only 1.1 trillion destroyed in Delve.
Helps when we set a cap fleet on fire. But yeah, the thing about this is, by the time that we are done with this SIGs and Squadsy deployment thing that we're doing, I think that it's going to be a while before these changes actually hit tranquility, right? Like, essentially, by the time that these changes hit, a lot of our purging will probably be over, because I imagine it's going to be a few weeks, and at the rate that we're going,
trying to find shit to kill in Faithabolus is not easy, kids. Let me tell you, there's not a lot left. Kind of glassy out there. Just saying.
Okay.
Anyway. All right. So we went from buff anchoring keep stars to CCP loves goons in the span of a year and a half. It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Online.
Gotta love it.
Okay, I want to give a quick shout out here. I don't know if Brisc has this on the list, but I want to divert here very briefly just to make sure. We got some news that Mind One is going to be at FanFest.
It's on the list.
DJing. It is on the list. All right, we will get that.
Go ahead. You can do it now. Go ahead, do it now.
Mind One is going to be DJing with Z-Trip at FanFest. Last week, we didn't really have much to say about FanFest. They've had some issues with ticket sales, but that doesn't matter. What matters is Mind One. Our boy done good. The Imperium's battle bard himself is going to be DJing at FanFest. So if you get a chance to go to FanFest and you're going to be there, make sure you turn up for that. That is going to be awesome. And we in the Imperium are so proud of Mind One, and that fucking rules. So that's another thing I can give a gold star to. Everybody gets Mind One gets a bunch of gold stars, and CCP gets a gold star for bringing him on board for that. So that is fantastic.
There you go. How is exciting is this? I'm looking forward to it. I was really worried because I'll tell you, like, you know, we talked about this last week, and I was telling CCP Goodfellow the other day, I'm a little nervous about FanFest because, you know, I don't know a lot of people that are going. And then steadily, like over that week, well, all right, Pando's going, and Mind One's going to be there, and Dunk's going to be there, and a bunch of other people that I wanted to see are going to be there. So I feel like I'm not as worried about no one being at FanFest as I was before that. And then, of course, there is the news. For those of you who enjoy listening to me bloviate, and I assume that that's all of you since you're still here by the end of the show, I will be one of the 4 broadcasters who will be joining CCP live on CCP TV during FanFest. It'll be myself, Ithaca Hawk, Frost Ease, OP, and Nth Dimensional. We're going to be the 4 hosts of CCP TV during FanFest. I'll have a block of a couple of hours where you guys are going to have to listen to my bullshit. I'm looking forward to making you deal with it. So that will be FanFest. So anyway, if you want to come to FanFest, please come. If you want to go to Goons Berlin, that's going to be a good time too. That'll be July 8th and 9th.
9th and 10th.
9th and 10th. Sorry.
Yes.
Mittens is going to be there. I believe Merkelchen is going to be there. We're going to have some other people there. It's going to be fun. A good time will be had by all. And if you want to go to an EVE event, there are plenty of EVE events throughout the year. We have EVE Vegas in October. There is going to be a Cleveland EVE meet, Rampage meet, April 22nd. If you guys want to go up and see Merk and Nam and the boys. And then, of course, FanFest May 6th and 7th, where I will be there and amongst others. Is Fountain Frank going to be there? I'm not buying his ass a ticket. Maybe CCP will. But, I mean, I'm sure he and George can find a way to get there on their own if they want to. But I'm still pissed at him. So
that's awesome.
In any event, my wife will be going with me to FanFest, by the way, not Frank. So that will be a good sign. Anyway. All right, we are at the end of the show. We had, again, like, we have some MER stuff. There's not a whole lot in the MER. We can go over that next week. The biggest thing was, I think, obviously, Faith Abilis has been glassed or is in the process of being glassed, and we got a chunk of that number on this MER. There'll be more of it in the April one, I am sure. But other than that, the IS velocity thing was also something that we're keeping an eye on because it's kind of low. But that could also just be accounts of people that are unsubbed. Hopefully we'll start seeing them come back. I don't know. But in any event,
we have one other little bit of news. The bad guys on the Faith Atlas thing. If I don't say this, you know, the bad guys will herf about this. So one little last bit there, which is a random goon Serb fleet got bombed today, and we lost like 10 billion ISK worth of Serbs. And all of these dumbasses are pinging about it. Horde is pinged about it. Fire is pinged about it. These guys are so happy that they bombed 50 Serbs. So apparently that's a major strategic thing. Good job. Goons dumb sometimes get blown up by bombs, and congratulations. I will just continue glassing the region, but at least you guys got something. It's the most fighting you've been doing in a hot minute. GG.
We will never financially recover.
I can't believe they're all pinging about it, but they got nothing else to do. Oh, well, whatever. Apparently also they're bragging about the fact out of the 49 timers we had in our purge list, when I checked it earlier today, 2 of them were saved. So all of the IHUBs and the other citadels that we have purged today, that doesn't count because they vaporized 1 fleet of goons. And goons, of course, are never known for being dumb and getting bombed. That is something that never, ever happens. But
although normally when we get bombed, it's usually us doing it to ourselves.
That's all they've fucking got these days is, some Serbs went boom. 10 billion is.
It's so much money. Like losing T2 ships right now is probably the easiest thing in the world to do, because that's the only thing we can actually replace without any effort. So anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show. I would like to say a little bit. I'm going to get on my soapbox here for 1 second. Okay. I would like to apologize to a lot of people this week because I have been a super salty bitch for a variety of reasons and in a variety of places. I think the CSM term is winding down, and that's getting to me, knowing that there's a campaign season. Trying to decide if I want to run again has also gotten in my head. But I'll tell you, I've been doing my best to get out there and talk to people about a lot of these changes, and I know that I have not been as patient with some of you as I should have been. And for that, I am truly sorry. At the same time, stop fucking trying my patience all the time, for Christ's sake, people. Like, help me help you. When I ask you a question, don't assume that I'm mocking you. Help me find the answer. That is the best way to make sure that Brisc is the normal, happy-go-lucky Brisc that he is, and not the super salty bitch that I have been for the last week. But of course, I know when I have a problem, so I'm willing to admit it. And for all of you who I may have yelled at, I'm very sorry, even though you deserved it. So that is my soapbox for this week.
Thank you, Brisc.
back to normal. And I think we're ready to go.
I think that's it. It's good. It's great to have a normal show where we get to go through the order of the day, and it's not just, hey guys, you can't build capital ships because they require too much water. So high fives all around. High fives to CCP for being able to actually a couple of gold stars. I guess gold stars for the Pappies because they blew up 50 Serbs and they finally got the Citadel changes that they insisted that they wanted until they realized that the Imperium still exists. So it's been a good week. Looking forward to next week. We should have a lot of stuff to bring you. It's good.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This has been the Meta Show for April the 16th, 2022. I'm Brisc Rubal, joined alongside the Mittani. Happy Passover. Happy Easter. We will see you next time. Eat my ass, and you stay classy, New Eden.
Indeed, indeed.